Nick Byron at 360 Insights. And in today's video, I'm going to be honest with you. I've done this a few different times and I'm struggling a little bit with the video. And it's because I feel like I'm being a little too heavy handed with the messaging that I'm getting out there. But at the same time, I feel like it's important because I honestly think that it's hindering the ability for businesses today to perform in any level, really. Um, so to kind of set the stage a little bit, I've been really in my writing and in my videos talking a lot about the challenges I'm seeing in businesses today. And today I'm just going to cover another facet of this, but I think it's probably one of the more impactful ones, to be quite honest with you. So to kind of set the stage a little bit, we get briefed quite often by vendors, and one of the things that they always ask us is who's winning? Who are the solution providers out there that are absolutely killing it today that they should be paying attention to because maybe they're on path to being the next unicorn-based company, or they're just simply dominating and winning more business than anyone else? I can say, over the past 24 to 18 months, that that's been a very difficult question to answer because we're not really seeing anyone out there just absolutely killing it. If you think about it, it's kind of like a dogfight of vendors out there right now that you get some that might be winning a little bit more than others, others that are kind of meandering around winning their fair share, and then a few others that, at the end of the day, they're kind of just not winning as much as they could and they're struggling as a business. You of course have kind of the pure play AI players like a Claude or ChatGPT, excuse me, or even NVIDIA that are killing it. But with those exceptions, it's just you're not seeing those standout players that we once did especially in the industries that we cover here at 360 Insights. And the videos and writings I've done in the past have covered certain areas because I think there's a lot of things ailing businesses today. And the things that I'm covering are not the exceptions versus the rule. Like it's the things that I'm seeing that are predominantly impacting businesses today. And this is just another one that I want to cover. And it really boils down to the plan to plan to plan and the perpetual hamster wheel of planning and reorganization. So to kind of, again, I like to set the stage always when having conversations or doing videos, but to set the stage around this one is, again, we do briefings. And in these briefings, typically we will try to understand what is a solution provider's focus for the immediate future, next 3, 6 months, maybe 12 months out, and then go into, well, what's the long-term visibility and strategy for the organization? That really helps us set the stage to understand how should we be covering the space from a research standpoint, how we should be covering them as a vendor and solution provider. And it really helps us give a good sense of where things are today versus where they're going to be going. But I will tell you that ultimately, over the past, I'd say 12 to 18 months, one of the challenges that we've been finding is that a lot of organizations are just constantly stuck in this hamster wheel of reorganization and planning. Meaning, some cases, we're not even getting to the briefing phase because when we outreach and request the briefing, the organizations will say, "We're not ready for a briefing. Can you give us 3 to 6 months?" And then we reach out 3 to 6 months and say, "Well, we still need a little bit more planning." Or in some cases, we have a briefing, but then shortly after that, they announce a completely corporate-wide reorganization of the company, which means that they just are completely revamping their go-to-market strategy completely. And it just seems like a lot of these organizations are just in this perpetual hamster wheel of reorganization, creating their strategy, reconfiguring their strategy, and never quite landing on an actual solid go-to-market strategy. So I'll give you one, I would say, use case example that may seem extreme, but I'll be honest with you, this is not. This is actually quite often we hear similar stories. It's just one that's very fresh in my mind. So to set the stage a little bit, we've been working with this organization for a little over 2 years. Originally, when we started speaking to them almost 2 years ago, they were shifting their strategy. They were previously a white label based company, and they wanted to move direct to business. They wanted to move direct to enterprise. And doing a pivot like that typically is a massive undertaking. It actually requires typically new leadership, new teams to be built up, and new direction within the organization. So what they did is they brought on a new CEO. That CEO, someone that we knew had previous experience. It was a great fit for the organization. And they actually brought on new team members, new marketing, new product, everything like that, and started to really build up the organization. As part of this process, we were working with them to develop some marketing strategy and messaging and research content to help support this go-to-market rollout that they're doing. But part of the challenge, and this gets into what I'm going to get at kind of the long-term story, is about 6 months in, they lost their marketing person. So they had to bring in a new marketing person. And of course, every new marketing person or new executive period wants to put their fingerprint on the strategy. So we had to basically reconfigure, rejig everything that we were planning on from a marketing strategy, content perspective with this new individual. 6 months later, they lose their CEO. So now they bring on a new CEO. And this new CEO, of course, much like just like I said earlier, is a new executive. They want to put their new fingerprints on everything and start to develop new strategy, new direction, everything that goes along with that. Well, he lets go of the existing marketing person, wants to bring on his new marketing person, and well, we restart the process yet again. 4 months into the process, that new marketing person tells us that there's a new marketing person coming in and that new marketing person wants us to work that strategy with us. So fast forward, that new marketing person comes in, we start having conversations, and lo and behold, they tell us they're bringing on a new sales leader and they want to wait for that new sales leader to come in before they develop and finalize their strategy. Now, this whole process has now been 2 years. 2 years of this company basically planning to plan with no solid execution in place. Quite honestly, if they didn't have their legacy white labeling licensing in place, they would probably be out of business today. Quite frankly, because they just haven't fully launched what they're trying to do from a go-to-market enterprise perspective. And it's judgmental because I can't believe it's been 2 years and they haven't developed a strategy. Now, this may sound dramatic, but it's the reality. And this is what's insane is this used to be the exception. It used to be we had always dealt with these companies that were always kind of in this perpetual hamster wheel. And what I'm finding today, from a research standpoint, where we talk to businesses of all shapes and sizes, it is now becoming the rule versus the exception. So many companies out there are just constantly planning to plan. When they finally land on a plan, a reorganization is typically right behind that, or a re-strategization of the organization, or just rejigging of the marketing plans are coming into place. And I will tell you, it is one of the key reasons why no one's winning today. Because if you, as a business, cannot create an identity internally and a strategy internally, how would you expect your prospects and your customers to identify with your business properly? And it's part of the reason why these organizations, no one's really winning because they're not. And a lot of the messaging, and this is another message, another, I'd say video, and I've also done it in articles I've written, is it's creating flat messaging across the board. Nobody's really coming up with unique messaging. Nobody's really coming up with messaging that's grabbing the attention of these prospects and customers. And it's because so many organizations out there are just constantly in this perpetual hamster wheel of planning. So when it comes down to it, what is my recommendation and how do we try to talk to our clients? It's really coming down to you need to create a plan and stick with it. At the end of the day, you need to put a stick in the mud and basically say, this is where we're going. And it's okay to make meaningful changes. I'm a big fan of continuous improvement and developing a strategy where you're creating improvements to that strategy over time. But at the end of the day, you need to pick a plan and stick with it. build momentum around that plan. Get everyone within the organization rowing in the same boat. Because until you can get your organization in alignment, strategy and alignment, you will not get your prospects and customers in alignment. And you're going to continue to meander as a business. And we've seen this in businesses of all shapes and sizes. I've sat in on some of the biggest, I would say, in HR companies out there that are $5 billion in size and say, we're growing to 10, but 2 years later, they're still at $5 billion. Yeah, they're still winning a lot of money. They have a lot of reoccurring revenue. But at the end of the day, they haven't meaningfully grown over time. And I can tell you that the wide majority of software providers out there and service providers out there today are in the same boat. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I do feel like this is a bit of a blunt message to the solution providers out there, but it's kind of frustrating when they're all trying to win business and they're all trying to understand why are we not winning business, but at the same time they're kind of self-sabotaging by constantly getting into these states of reorganization and replanning. It's that hamster wheel of planning and planning to plan, planning to plan, planning to plan, and never basically sticking that flag in the ground and saying, this is what we're doing, let's just go. uh, so again, hope you guys found this video helpful. At the end of the day, we really want to see organizations be successful. And I think there's a lot of things contributing to the turmoil that's happening in software and technology today. And this is just one of them. And at the end of the day, we'd love to help. And if you need help as a business, as an organization, feel free to reach out. We would be happy to sit down, have a discussion with you, and really try to help point you in the right direction, or maybe even be that third party independent person in the room that just kind of says, maybe you should be thinking this over.